Mystery exploration. Darkness. History. Darkest side.
There are moments in life when you encounter someone who makes you stop and wonder if there is such a thing as true evil. Not the kind you see in movies with monsters or demons, but the subtle, quiet, and dangerous evil that hides in plain sight in the people we meet every day. The Stoic philosophers often reminded us that human beings are not inherently good or bad, rather, we act according to our nature, our character, and the choices we make. And yet, they also warned us to stay vigilant, for there are people whose nature leans toward malice, cruelty, and manipulation. To recognize them is to protect your peace, your freedom, and even your soul. I want to tell you a story. Imagine a man named Marcus, who worked in a small trading town centuries ago. He was a merchant, dealing with spices and fine fabrics. People respected him for his honesty and his calm spirit. He often quoted Epictetus, saying, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Marcus lived by this principle, treating everyone with fairness. But then he met a man named Cassius. Cassius was charming at first. His words were smooth, his laughter warm, and he always seemed to have the right thing to say. But over time, Marcus began to notice things that unsettled him. Cassius was not what he seemed. He was a mask of friendliness hiding a darker truth. The first sign came when Marcus observed how Cassius treated those who could give him nothing. To men of wealth and influence, Cassius was all smiles and respect. But to the poor beggars who lined the marketplace, to the workers who carried heavy loads, Cassius' face hardened into cruelty. He mocked them, insulted them, and sometimes even tripped them as they passed. Marcus remembered the Stoic teaching of Seneca, "You can judge a man by how he treats those who can do nothing for him." And here was the truth: Cassius' kindness was nothing but a tool. He was not good, he was calculating. The second sign revealed itself in conversation. Cassius never spoke plainly. Every word was twisted, carefully chosen not for honesty but for control. When Marcus made a deal with him, Cassius later denied their agreement, claiming Marcus had misunderstood. When Marcus recalled events, Cassius would shake his head and say, "No, that is not how it happened." Slowly, Marcus began to doubt his own memory. The Stoics warned about this, too. Epictetus said, "When a man is mistaken, instruct him kindly. But when he deliberately deceives, guard yourself." Marcus realized that Cassius thrived on confusion, creating a fog so others would stumble while he walked away with the advantage. This was no mere accident, this was manipulation. The third sign appeared in how Cassius took pleasure in the suffering of others. One day, a rival merchant lost his goods in a storm. The man was ruined, standing in the square with his hands in his hair, shouting to the heavens in despair. Marcus felt sorrow and offered him food. But Cassius stood nearby, grinning as though the man's loss was a delightful spectacle. He whispered, "One less competitor for us." That grin chilled Marcus's heart. True evil is not just cruelty, it is joy found in cruelty. And here was Cassius, feeding his spirit with the misery of others. The fourth sign came from Cassius' endless excuses. He never admitted fault. If a plan failed, it was someone else's mistake. If he insulted a man, he claimed it was just a joke. If he lied, he blamed the listener for not understanding. Marcus remembered the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius: if someone is mistaken, teach them. If you cannot, bear with them. But if someone refuses truth and responsibility, they are their own punishment. Cassius lived in denial, never allowing the light of truth to reach him. And that made him dangerous, for a man who sees no fault in himself will never change. The fifth and final sign struck Marcus like a blow. One evening, Cassius invited him to a feast. The tables overflowed with food, music filled the hall, and laughter echoed. But Marcus noticed something troubling. Cassius had not paid the servants who prepared the feast. They worked with weary faces, hungry and unpaid, yet Cassius ignored them, basking in his own false glory. When Marcus asked about it, Cassius laughed. "They are lucky to serve me. They should be grateful." In that moment, Marcus understood fully. Evil is not always grand or violent, it is often the quiet belief that others exist only to be used, that their lives have no value except for one's own benefit. Marcus left that feast early, his mind heavy. He walked under the stars and thought of the Stoic path. He remembered that the world is full of both virtue and vice, and while we cannot always avoid the wicked, we can guard our hearts against them. He thought of how easy it is to be deceived by charm, by words, by laughter, by masks. And he knew that the true test of wisdom is not just recognizing goodness but also recognizing evil, so that we may not be ensnared by it. The story of Marcus and Cassius is not confined to the past. Look around you today, and you may see the same signs. The person who treats the powerless with contempt, while bowing to those with status. The one who twists words and makes you question your memory. The one who secretly delights in your failures. The one who never takes responsibility. The one who uses others as tools and discards them when they are no longer useful. These are not merely flaws, they are signs of something deeper, something the Stoics would urge us to confront with both wisdom and caution. What, then, should we do when we encounter such people? The Stoics would remind us not to sink into hatred, for hatred only chains us to them. Instead, we must keep our reason clear, our virtue intact. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not become like them." That is the heart of Stoic strength. Do not let evil drag you into its shadow. Do not let it provoke you into losing your peace. Simply see it, recognize it, and step away when you can. And when you cannot, guard your soul with wisdom, patience, and clarity. Life is short, and our time here is fleeting. We cannot waste it fighting every shadow or answering every deceiver. But we can live in such a way that their poison does not touch us. We can build lives of virtue, compassion, and honesty. We can show by our actions that goodness is stronger than cruelty, that peace is stronger than manipulation, and that the Stoic way, calm, clear, and steadfast, will always outlast the schemes of the wicked. Marcus never did business with Cassius again. He continued his trade, living with honor, teaching his children to recognize the signs of those who would harm them. And as years passed, Cassius fell into ruin. His allies abandoned him, his charm faded, and his cruelty became his own punishment. For as the Stoics knew, no man who lives in vice can escape its grip forever. Sooner or later, evil devours itself. And so, whenever you feel uncertain about someone in your life, remember Marcus's story. Remember the 5 signs. And most importantly, remember what the Stoics taught, that your greatest power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself.